The Daily Show desk gleamed under studio lights, the skyline backdrop blinking like a slow heartbeat. Jon Stewart rolled a pen between his fingers and wore that familiar half grin that says,
Let's advance a little. Affliction moneized is still pain. But aback every affiliate is a siren about the family. Bodies stop audition the veterans in the abutting room. Harry sat back, a algid smile forming. If people stop hearing, that's your fault. You're the one with the microphone. John stared at him for one exhausted longer than abundance allowed. The beam faded, not gone, aloof thin. I'll own my part, he said quietly. But your captivation won, too. The band's bonanza bite hovered, waiting for a cue that didn't come. John finally bankrupted his mug. "We activity to take a quick break," he told the camera, the accent friendly, the eyes not. Aback we come back. We'll allocution about how a boy who ran above the casket became a man trying to outrun an answer and whether that answer anytime stops. The acclaimed sign flashed. The acclamation was dutiful, unsure. On the couch, Prince Harry folded his arms, boring bound on John as if the breach were aloof of beneath word for annula too. And about aloft the rafters, the show's old bass hummed like it knew a billow was coming. When the appearance alternate from commercial, the atmosphere had shifted. The laughter cues still blinked aloft the crowd, but no one seemed abiding aback or if to use them. John confused his addendum with the air of a man aggravating to broadcast a bomb while animated for the camera. "We're back with Prince Harry," he said, "and I anticipate we've already covered enough ground to authorize for analysis coa." The admirers chuckled. Harry didn't. John leaned in, elbows comatose on the desk. "So afore the break, you said you're angry for accountability. Let's allocution about that. Accountability for whom? The press, the palace, or maybe the genitalia of yourself that, I don't know, still adore the spotlight you say you've outgrown." Harry's eyes hardened. "You anticipate this is about fame?" John shrugged, his accent deceptively light. "I anticipate it's about attention. Fame's aloof the invoice." Harry's smirk was sharp. "You complete like the tabloids you pretend to despise." John captivated up a hand. "Hey, I don't address about your grocery list. I aloof apprehend the headlines that you advice make." The admirers gave an uneasy laugh. Harry aged his head, voice low and cool. "Maybe it's easier to laugh at me than face what your industry does to people." John sighed softly. "My industry makes jokes, Harry. Castigation made crowns and casualties. Let's not swap moral aerial arena aloof yet." A beam of something beyond Harry's face. Discomfort, irritation, maybe both, but it vanished quickly. "Let's pivot," John said. "You've talked about absent to protect your family's brainy health. That's commendable. But aback every interview ends up analytic your wife, your brother, your father. Doesn't that reopen the wounds you say you're healing?" Harry leaned forward. "Healing isn't hiding, John. It's confronting. Maybe that's an abstraction adopted to you." John smiled faintly. "Not foreign, just not televised every 3 months." The audience gasped. Harry's jaw flexed. "You know, you comedians anticipate everything's a punchline until the bite acreage on you." John's eyes narrowed, still calm. "True, but I usually acreage abundance on purpose." For a few seconds, blackout afraid heavy between them. The restriction had a pulse. Even the cameraman seemed to be holding his breath. John austere his throat. "Let's allocution about Diana if we can. You said her adventure drives aggregate you do. Do you anytime anguish that you've turned grief into currency? That the affliction has become marketable?" Harry's blaze could have austere through the desk. "How dare you?" John didn't flinch. "I'm daring because the catechism deserves asking. You've aggregate added about her than anyone else alive. But sometimes aback people keep reopening the aforementioned wound. You start to admiration if they appetite it to alleviate it all." Harry's easily anchored on his knees. "My mother died active from people like you." John's articulation softened, but it didn't waver. "And I've spent my career disturbing those bodies apart. But if we can't abstracted anamnesis from monetization, afresh maybe no one's running anymore. Maybe we're just circling the aforementioned block with better lighting." The admirers was silent. Even the ascendancy allowance had stopped, whispering. Harry leaned closer, voice sharp as a knife. "You've no appropriate to lecture me about grief. You don't know what it's like to accept the apple augment on your pain." John nodded slowly. "You're right. I don't. But I do perceive what it looks like a back affliction starts feeding back. Harry exhaled hard, his composure slipping. This is absolutely why I don't do shows like this. You aberration everything. You act like you care, but it's all performance. John smiled grimly. That's rich advancing from the guy with a Netflix doc alleged Harry and Meghan. The truth. Laughter erupted from the audience before anyone could stop it. Harry's expression angry stone. John leaned back, giving him space. Look, I don't think you're lying. I anticipate you're lost. And that's fine. Most of us are. But every time you sit bottomward on another couch, the adventure starts to complete less like accuracy and added like branding. Harry's accent alone into quiet fury. You can't angle that I acquaint my own story. You appetite me quiet. Addition royal puppet accomplishing arms handshakes and pretending everything's fine. I won't do that. John befuddled his head. No one wants you quiet. We aloof appetite you real. Not rehearsed. Not reactive. Real. Harry shot back. Maybe absoluteness makes you uncomfortable. John nodded. Uncomfortable makes for acceptable television. The crowd laughed again. Nervous laughter, uncertain whether to ace his sides. Harry leaned back, his articulation decrepit disdain. You're biting what you don't understand. You don't understand loyalty, legacy, or what it agency to carry article that heavy. John's gaze softened. You're appropriate again. But I do understand about someone's aggravating too hard to prove they've let go while gripping the accomplished with both hands. That did it. Harry's affectation cracked, his face reened, his breath sharper. You think you're clever, don't you? You think these little jokes accomplish you profound. You're aloof addition complacent American pretending to get the absolution because it sells ad space. John smiled faintly, but this time there was no humor. And you aloof edition delinquent prince pretending he doesn't absence the palace lights. The flat gasped. The director in the ascendancy berth muttered, cut to break. But John kept going. Let's not, he said softly, still bound on Harry. Let's accumulate the cameras rolling because I anticipate this appropriate actuality is what honesty actually looks like. Harry glared at him, chest rising, articulation trembling. You're advantageous, this is your show. John nodded slowly. I am because appropriate now it's starting to feel like you'd throw me out of it. The admirers stayed utterly still. John leaned back, eyes narrowing aloof hardly and said, we'll be appropriate back. Or maybe we won't. The screen achromatic to commercial, but no one in that flat moved. They all knew it wasn't over. It had a lone amorphous to burn. When the lights came back on, you could feel it. That airy depression that settles in.